and welcome back to my challenge. Today I'm going to be talking about my journey through my third trimester. So with my third trimester recap, let's start off with symptoms. So my symptoms I had are very similar to my second trimester. Just to recap on those was I still got nausea. It was a little bit better towards the end of my second trimester. I had only get it off and on, not constantly like I did before. Tiredness, I was so exhausted. I'd have to have a sleep in the middle of the day every single day. I do split shifts at work, so I'd go to work, I'd come home, and I'd sleep all day until I had to go back to work again in the afternoons. I was just so tired. I was still very nesting, but now it was turned more into from a fun nesting to a panic nesting. I gotta get this done. I gotta, wash all these clothes. It was like a little bit more stressful. Nesting, I guess you would say. Even though I knew I still had plenty of time, as I thought I did, which turned out not to be, but we'll get to that. I was still getting kicking on and off throughout the day. I'd feel him kick. Sometimes he'd kick really hard, sometimes he'd kick softly. And I was still getting Braxton Hicks too. I also had my diabetes test done, which I came negative for, and I received my whooping cough vaccination at 30 weeks. It's normally done at 28 weeks, but they missed mine when I was at my appointment, so they did it at 30 weeks instead. My levels were really good throughout my third trimester. They were sitting around the 190 to 240 mark, I believe. I was currently on, so in my third trimester, the highest protein intake I went up to was 18 grams a day. I was on 3 spheres, Vitafood spheres, and 2 capsules of microtabs. So I started taking the spheres from the expresses as my protein level got higher because I could stomach them better, but I couldn't have them when I was on a low intake due to it being because of the natural protein in the spheres. I also decided to start taking microtabs as it was just easier to take during the day. As for the spheres, they were nicer, and I would make them into smoothies or frappes to have them. But sometimes I find at the end of the day, because I was still getting a little bit of nausea, just cutting back on one of them made it a lot easier to get all of them in. And then I would have microtabs. Now, I love taking microtabs, but the only problem with the microtabs is they do not have the vitamins and minerals in them that you need for pregnancy. So I was only allowed to have one lot of those, which works out to be 2 capsules of tablets. So I was taking that at the time. My levels were doing really good on that. I had a bit of an interesting third trimester, not like your norm. So whether this is related to a PKU pregnancy or not, I doubt it, because I know a few other women that have had gone through maternal PKU and haven't had these problems. So I think it's just something that happened to me. So it's not to say it's going to happen to you. So in my third trimester, I had an ultrasound at 28 weeks, which is my first ultrasound in my third trimester. And in that ultrasound, they found out that I had excess fluid. Now, however they measure the excess fluid in your body through your ultrasounds, they told me at that ultrasound I was a level 10. of fluid. That's how much fluid I had. At my next ultrasound, which I'll get into a little bit in more detail soon, I went from a 10 to a 14 in only 3 weeks, which was a little concerning for the doctors. So before that happened, on the 17th of October, I went into the hospital because I was getting some weird cramping feelings and I just wanted to get checked out. I'd been getting this discharge coming out, but it wasn't that bad. It just felt like normal discharge. But when I went into the doctors, they said I had a really bad thrush. They said they don't normally treat thrush in pregnancy because women just naturally get thrush while they're pregnant, but I had a lot and it was all clogged up there. So they said to me, we're going to treat you for thrush. So they did that. And then I'm just checking my notes. So then on the 22nd of October, I went in again because on the 17th they said to me I was at a 1% chance of going early, of having my baby early. So they said, we recommend you to stop working now. So at this stage, I was only about 29 to 30 weeks pregnant. So I said, okay, well, I'll go to work Monday and let them know that, I have to finish up early. I wasn't due to finish work until the 15th of November, which would have made me 36 weeks. No, sorry, 34 weeks. Would have made me 34 weeks when I was supposed to finish work. But I didn't finish until I ended up finishing at about 29 to 30 weeks. So on the Monday I went to work. I let work know, okay, I got to finish up work early because this is what the doctors said. So that was all good. Over the next week, I started getting more and more fluid coming out. I didn't know if it was just normal discharge or if it was because of the thrush treatment or if it was actual amniotic fluid coming out. Which it started concerning me. It started off just a little bit here and there, and then it got more and more and more. So I went in again on the 24th of October. I went in for my antenatal appointment and I talked to the doctor. I showed her some of the discharge that was coming out as I was getting clunks coming out and I didn't know what that was. And she told me, oh no, that's just the thrush treatment working. So I didn't think any else of it. Then over the weekend it kept increasing more and more to the point I would go to the toilet in the middle of the night and I'd just have a pool of liquid come out. And it started to worry me. So then I held off until the 29th, and it was so bad the 29th that it was just coming out during the day. Every time I went to the toilet, it'd be coming out. So my husband convinced me to go back to the hospital just to get checked out again. I almost didn't go because they kept putting me on the monitors. Baby was fine and then sent me home. But this last time I went, they tested the fluid. And the fluid came back positive for amniotic fluid. Now they said me, because I had been on thrush treatment, thrush could actually throw a false positive. So they did a second test, and that one came back positive as well. So when that came back positive, they called Dr. Watson in Townsville and said, this is what's happened, what should we do? And he said to them to send me up in an ambulance straight away. And then after they're doing that test, they told me I was now a 56% chance of going early, having a premature baby. So I went from the 17th of October being a 1% chance of a preemie baby to the 29th of October going up to a 56% chance of having a premature baby. So obviously I was distraught then. I was shocked and I didn't know what was going on. I'd only just finished work by the doctor's request. Exactly 1 week later, I'm getting rushed up to Townsville Hospital, and I got admitted up there on the 29th of October. Now, I spent that whole week in hospital. They were only going to keep me a couple of days to see how I went, but they did a ultrasound on me on the Thursday. And that at that ultrasound, they had an internal and an external ultrasound done. They looked internally to see that my cervix had thinned to 1 centimeter, and my baby's head was sitting right on my cervix. And they also found out how much fluid I had increased to. Now, due to the they told me due to the pressure of the fluid, that's why I was also struggling to feel him. I could feel movements, but because I felt pressure all the time, I could never tell if I was getting cramping or contractions, which was a little scary because that's the one thing the doctors told me every single time. Do you feel any cramping? Do you feel any contractions? I could feel him kick because he was a big kicker. He kicked me hard, so I could feel that. But when it came to any other feeling, I couldn't feel it because I just felt pressure 24/7 because my stomach was so big and so swollen and so tight that I just couldn't feel anything. And I couldn't tell if I was feeling a cramp or he was just rolling around inside me because there was so much fluid there. He had so much room to move. So when they said that, Dr. Watson said to me 2 things. First thing was, when women leak like this, they've got 1 in 2 chance that they go into labour within a week of finding this. Within a week of leaking fluid, they'll go into labour, 1 to 2 women. Second thing he told me was they couldn't explain why I had so much fluid. And he said to me, with that, there's 1 or 2 things that usually are the case. First thing is you have diabetes. Now, like I said before, I was already negative for that, tested negative. They were still testing my blood sugar levels while in hospital just to make sure something had changed or I had gotten it and the test came back wrong. But my blood sugars were always right, always fine. The second thing he said, there's a problem with the baby's digestive system. Now, in the ultrasounds, he kept saying it all looks fine because there's fluid in his belly, there's fluid in his bladder and all that. So there's fluid going through him. So they said once he's born, because he said hopefully we can hold it. By this point, I had to stay in hospital until he was born. No matter what, it was just too risky for me to leave because I had the excess fluid. There were risks that if I went into labour and my waters broke, it could be as bad as his umbilical cord could come out before him and get stuck, and all these problems could have happened. And they have to go through every possible bad thing that could happen through with you, just so you're prepared. So in that case, we had to stay in hospital, which was fine. And he said to me that you're more than likely going to have a premature baby. So when he's born, he'll get thoroughly checked over to find out what could be wrong with him, just to make sure he's all good. They gave me the injections, steroids, to help with his lungs as soon as they realized that I was leaking fluid. So yeah, so In that, I was admitted into the hospital, Townsville Hospital, on the 29th, which was a Tuesday. The following Monday, 1 week later, my waters broke. I will go into that part of the story in more detail in my next video, which will be my birth story. So if you'd like to hear that, please subscribe, press like on this video, and I will try to link that video down below. Otherwise, please go onto my channel and you'll be able to see it there. Thank you. And just before we leave, I'll show you another ultrasound picture of our baby. This one's from our 28-week scan when they first found out I had excess fluid. Thank you again. Bye.